Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. It's safe to say now, with all the videos that I've been doing and the various people that I've been talking to, that Great Britain seems to be under attack. Under attack by electronics, by upgrades, by all sorts of nonsense that perhaps you, me and many others have not actually asked for, but we seem to be getting it whether we like it or not. Up in Lincolnshire, for example, a few months ago now, I heard about 27,000 acres that was being turned over, agricultural land, by the way, being turned into solar farms. I don't know how you farm solar, but it's solar panels covering the countryside. But that's not it. Only earlier today, I recorded about these lithium big battery, these are shipping container sized batteries, which are all over the country. But it gets worse. Can you believe it, ladies and gentlemen? My guest today is Gina. She is also in Lincolnshire and she is very worried. She's talking about the Great Grid upgrade. We'll find out what that is and what that means. Gina joins me now. Hello, Gina.
Hello, Richard.
It's lovely to have you on the show, although
Yes,
I'm
thank you.
slightly nervous about what information you're going to impart to our viewers about this great, wonderful, beautiful countryside that we have that seems to be massively under attack.
Yes. Well, we have what they're calling the Great Grid upgrades, and it seems that Lincolnshire is earmarked to receive a lot of the electrical infrastructure that they want to put in. When we started hearing about things, it was some time ago, and we heard from the National Grid that they wanted to put 87 miles worth of pylons along the east coast. They wanted to put them from Grimsby all the way down to Walpole. Now,
87 miles of pylons.
yes. Now, these pylons are 50 metres high and they're only 330 metres apart. And they
Wow.
want to put it right across beautiful Lincolnshire.
Presumably, I'm assuming then that not only would they have to have the landowner's permission, but it might be compulsory.
It would be compulsory purchase, or I don't know if it would be lease. It would be across the farmland.
Right.
Now, the other things that accompany this amount of power that they want to put in, they would be taking quite a lot of land for things like that. They want to put 5 new substations in, and in accompaniment to that, they want to put a converter in. So that's from the Ossian wind farm, which we'll talk about. But all of these, we're talking about acres and acres of land. Um,
And on top of everything else, I mean, as I said at the beginning, you know, the whole country seems to be dotted with all of this infrastructure going in. And yet I have not had people come forward to say, oh, yeah, we asked for this. We want it. We definitely need it. I don't know anybody who wants it, but there seems to be a lot of people who are saying, hang on a second, before you go and wreck the countryside, what is the risk assessment, not just for people, but for the land, for farming, for animals, and everything else?
mm,
Um, what, what else have we got? Um, it's just a mass. Sorry, I'm lost for words here. It's just such a massive amount of infrastructure. You're clearly not the only one. There must be a lot of people protesting against this. Is there arguments to stop it or to halt it? And are MPs, councils, landowners listening?
they are a lot of the local MPs are listening. They don't want it. The councils don't want it. And there are a lot of campaigns. It's been on the local news regularly. They are filming regularly. There are a lot of arguments against it, and people want to be listened to. But unfortunately, the people down south, the government, they seem to think that it's needed. And whilst we appreciate that some things do need updating, it's the way that it's done. I mean, the pylons, there are so many alternatives. You could do it offshore. It isn't necessary for the pylons to go right across the countryside. There's also, I mean, then it's not just here that they want to do it. There's in Suffolk, there's another group campaigning, And I think that one's got quite a prominent member, Griff Rhys-Jones.
Oh yes.
He's got involved with that one because I think he has a local home there, and so it's not just us. And I think the two groups are sort of liaising with each other. And there's a group called No Pylons Lincolnshire, and they've got signs all over the place now, and they're regularly doing interviews. They're regularly campaigning to try and get it paused for proper evaluations to be done.
I mean, this is. I mean, it is outrageous if you've got so many people saying, actually, do you know what, Mr. Government, you are our public servants.
Mm.
You should be doing our bidding. The people blatantly don't want this. You should not be doing it. There are other
No,
arrangements, other methods of generating the power that we've got. Not least, we've already got an infrastructure, and fossil fuel has been quite useful. And you know, you need to still prove the case that man-made global warming is such a terrible thing that you then need to blight the countryside so that nobody can farm, nobody wants to live there, nobody wants to be under these throbbing cables. It
no,
sounds awful, and of course, I dare say it's not going to be just Lincolnshire. This is going across the whole country. These
it
sort of
is.
projects.
Well, well, after we heard about the pylons, and it seems to be that they're dripping information down, drip feeding. It's coming out in little bits. Once we heard about the all the things, the pylons and the substations from National Grid, then recently we received notification, and it wasn't widely publicised, but we received notification that actually in our village hall, our little tiny, and I'm in a very small village, our tiny village hall was holding the only local meeting for the Ossian wind farm that they are putting off the coast of Scotland. Now
My
that
goodness.
that is supposedly going to be one of the biggest floating wind farms in the world. It's going to be huge, and they want to run two cables down from that wind farm and then come on shore at Lincolnshire, just down the road from us.
So,
Uh,
how many miles is that?
it's 400 miles from Scotland down to Lincolnshire, down, and they want to put it on shore, and it will be connected to a converter, which will be, they've said, no more than 1.6 miles from the substation. So effectively, you're going to have a huge substation and a huge converter next to it, along with the pylons. And those are going to be, well, there's going to be a converter next to a substation, one side of Alford, and which is our local town, and then the other side of Alford will be the other substation. So we've literally got lots of it coming at us. Now the
Uh,
converter, just the converter is about the size of 9 football pitches, full size football pitches together.
my God.
So,
And
and
the
then the
amount of
substation,
radiation and EMFs and
yeah,
all of that's going to be coming out of this thing.
yeah, that's it. When I went to the Ossian meeting at the village hall, they didn't seem to be particularly well informed. They were just representatives that were just um, basically saying facts that they knew, and they said a lot of I don't knows. One thing I did ask was about the health implications, because there was concerns about the EMF readings that have been known to come off electrical
Mm.
things. This I mean, especially something this size and close to communities. And I did ask if they had a team that were going to fully assess it, make sure it was safe before they start putting these things next to a community. And the question was very carefully dodged.
Was it?
It was. And I've heard from other places, because from what I can tell, they held another meeting down the other end, and it was in another tiny village hall. And other people have said the same thing. They asked a similar question, and the question was dodged. It wasn't answered. I don't think that they would perhaps look at that sort of thing. I know that They are doing surveys on the wildlife and traffic surveys and things like that. Those are, from what I can gather, already taking place.
Right.
And I have seen, and I suspect that they're part of the same companies. I have seen just outside our village vans that have say, survey in progress. So I think they are doing things on the land, on the farmland near us.
So I assume that your village and all that countryside is just pig ugly, horrible. That
Oh,
these towers going up and down, and these rather lovely nondescript converter machinery and stuff. It must be there to enhance the countryside, beautify it, I imagine.
well, Lincolnshire is, people say it's very flat. We often get forgotten about in Lincolnshire. We're quite a big county, one of the biggest. We get forgotten about. People don't know it very well, but it's beautiful. It's really, really pretty. We're just outside the area of outstanding natural beauty at the Lincolnshire Wolds, which is very pretty. And we get so many people, walkers. It's
Cyclist,
just,
I
and
imagine.
so, oh my word, so many cyclists. It's just a beautiful part of the world. It's my favourite part of the world. 2 minutes, and I'm out next to the river. It's beautiful.
And I suppose because it's flat, if you start sticking up 87 miles of pylons,
Mm.
it's not like you just see one or two. You're going to see them all.
We're going to see them for miles and miles, and I think that's perhaps why they have looked at Lincolnshire because it is flat, because it is rural. Um, but the argument that we everybody has is that there are so many different alternatives. You can put substations, converters, and cabling offshore. You can do it in a different way. And from what I've been reading, there are other countries that are doing exactly that. Ireland and the Netherlands and Denmark, they're all doing it offshore and not putting these great big things, um, these great big, all these cables and these substations and these towers all over the countryside. They're all doing it offshore or under the sea. And from what I have read, I believe that the UK is the only one that is considering putting them all on the countryside, and it makes no sense. They're saying it's to do with money, the cost, and
They
from
could save money by not doing it, couldn't they?
they could. They say that they need it. From what they've said, it will power 6 million homes and all the new homes that are being built. And they need to create greener energy.
Oh,
Is what
and,
they're
and
saying.
then we come down to what is green and
Exactly.
where they're looking at green. Presumably, they take out the infrastructure, the construction of all these, the metals,
Exactly.
the batteries, the technology, and all of that out of the equation when they say it's green. And actually, it seems from people I speak to that when you make the equation up, this is the most ungreen, unenvironmental projects, these solar panels particularly,
Yes.
are incredibly ungreen. And then there's no guarantee with the solar panels that you're actually going to get any electricity out of the sun, seeing as they're determined to block that too.
Exactly. Where we live, the roads are really, really small. We have tiny country roads. I mean, coming out of my village, you can't even get two cars side by side.
Right.
And the amount of construction traffic we're going to have for all of these things on these roads. Now, apparently, they want to build some temporary roads. Well, we don't have, I mean, we don't even have motorways and things around here. Um, they want to build temporary roads, which apparently some will stay, but they don't know which. And so they're going to be building all the roads, all the extra traffic that's going to come in, especially at the height of the farming when there's loads of tractors, combines. We have those going up and down all the time. It's going to be it really is going to be something. And that's how can that be green? Putting all of that extra traffic on the road. I mean, the amount of hardcore they're going to need to bring in to to build these great big things. I
Yes.
mean, from what I can gather, I think the substations are going to be something like 15 meters high. So it's just huge.
Well,
It's
I guess you won't have to worry too much about tractors and combine harvesters because I imagine that farms will just close.
Well, this is the thing. Lincolnshire is one of the biggest producers of a lot of the UK's foods.
Yes,
Potatoes, cabbages, wheat, barley, sugar beet. Um, a lot of it is produced here because we are so rural.
yes,
And we like that. We like being part of the thing. I am Lincolnshire through and through. I was born here. I live in a family house. My parents were born in Lincolnshire. The village that I live in is the village where my dad was born, or just next to it. It's very family orientated, and the countryside means a great deal to myself and everybody else. You know what? Everybody in our village, they can't really believe what's happened. Actually, what they're proposing. Um, it's
do they have a start date for this and a time scale?
From what we've been told, when I went to the Ossian meeting, which was a few weeks ago, they said that they were hoping for everything to be put in place by 2030. So
So
to
that a finished, completed thing by
completed,
2030, because they're
yeah,
adhering to Agenda 2030 and
that's it.
trying to get net zero carbon and all of this and zero people and all
Yeah.
of that. I mean, this is just outrageous. What's being done to push back then?
There's people campaigning, but there's not enough people campaigning. Believe it or not, there are some people that seem to think that it's a good idea. A lot of people I have spoken to have said that they think it's a good idea. They keep saying, "Oh, well, we need this extra power." Um, they've been conditioned to think that it's a good idea, and they believe what they've been told that
And
we
perhaps
need the
they would like to
extra.
live next to these things then. A
Well,
15-meter.
there's a particular politician who has gone on record to say that he would be happy to live next to a pylon. I'm not sure if you heard about that in the news. Um,
I haven't.
no.
But well, it would be. Wouldn't it be great for protesters to sort of have a mock version, 50, whatever it is, 50 meters high, and shove it in next to him and say, "Well, that's what your house will look
Yeah,
like with that." And presumably, this is going to lower the prices of everybody's property in the
yeah,
area.
that's another thing. Um, I don't know. They're still looking at the areas. It's very likely it's going to be very close to our village, and it's going to be close. It's definitely going to be close to Alford. Alford's a tiny, quaint little market town,
Not
and
anymore.
no, it's going to be bookended by two substations, one side and one the other, and the house prices, I imagine, will go right down. I mean, this is like I say, this is a family house that I live in, so it's somewhere that's my forever home.
Yes.
So, but it's sad. It's really sad. I never thought they would do something such as this to a place like this. It's just the
Well,
mind
I
boggles.
mean, they haven't done it yet, and I mean, these things have just got to stop. This is not civilization. This
No,
is not people being civilized. You know, listening. A small number of people who seem to think, oh, it's perfectly all right to blight the countryside which they don't own. I mean, nobody owns land. Nobody really owns it. We're all custodians of it and looking after it for future generations. What are they doing for future generations if they're sticking up all this sort of stuff? Nobody will want to say, oh, look at lovely old England, quaint, beautiful England, a lovely place to go and live, to bring up a family and all those things, when you've got dirty great pylons fizzing around above your head, these massive, great, ugly looking converters, batteries, solar farms, and all of that all over the place, scars where the cables have come through. This smacks to me not of anything that's of any use that they say, but some other nefarious agendas. Do you believe that, or am I misreading it?
no, I do question. The more I look into things, the more I question. Um, I don't think that any of this is it's all it's not going in the right way. Um, they should be. I don't think they're particularly looking after us. I don't think that anybody's views are important to to those. Um, and from what I can gather, all of this that they want to put in Lincolnshire, most of it won't even be staying in Lincolnshire. It's all going down south anyway. Um,
Oh, so you don't get the benefit of
no,
this lovely benevolent
yeah,
electricity.
I
It's all
think
coming down south.
it's all coming down south. From what I've read, the majority will be going down south. Um,
Maybe they can plug some of these wires into chairs and ask a certain number of politicians to have a sit down for a while. Perhaps they'll change their mind.
yeah,
I mean, it just seems absolutely absurd. And in a real world where real people are getting on with their lives, this, I mean, if you wrote this in a fiction, it would be a dystopia, wouldn't it?
I think so. It's you can imagine perhaps one thing, but I think this is from what other people in the village have told me. I mean, people have said they think it's the tip of the iceberg, and I mean, it does seem to be like we're getting one thing, and then a little while later we're getting another thing, and then another thing. And I mean, one thing we haven't mentioned, or there's a couple of things that they're talking about a nuclear waste
Oh, lovely.
down the
Just,
road.
just,
Yes, just down the
just
road from us on the
add to the fun.
coastline. Yeah, on the
Seeing,
coastline. Um,
seeing as you're so gullible and happy to have these pylons and converters and battery storages and solar panels, well, we've got a nuclear waste. Where should we dump that? Oh, Lincolnshire, that's a nice place.
yeah, that's it. They want to put that as well, and there's they want to a CO2 pipeline running from Immingham. They want to take that and bury that, and put that up, pump it into the seabed off the coast of Mablethorpe. So that's in the pipeline, shall
In
we say?
the
Sorry,
quite
for fun.
literally in
Yeah,
the
sorry.
pipeline. So what is that doing? It's what is that sucking CO2 from all the sequestrian of
Yeah,
whatever?
the waste that they've got, they want to put that underground.
Right.
In I think from some existing pipeline and some new pipeline, and that's going to be buried. But there's big concerns about the safety of that as well. If you got a pinprick in that, I mean, that it would go up. I think there's it.
Well, but they'd be better off pumping the CO2 into the atmosphere because that's what we actually need for plants to grow. Seeing as they're going to reduce the amount of agricultural land, we're going to need more CO2 to make plants actually want to grow again,
Yeah,
not wither and die by reducing the amount of CO2. I mean, it is just barking.
yeah,
One does get to the point at some point, when will the population of this country start realizing that certain people who gather together in London do not seem to have the best interests of the rest of the population and are not listening to people like yourself and the people who live in these areas who've got to put up with this crap.
yeah. That's the thing. They don't. They're so far away. It's another world. Um, I mean, I don't know if because I'm in Lincolnshire's flat, so that might be why they've said. But is it because they don't expect as much resistance from it? We are rural. Most of us are
Right.
rural, and like I say, I have spoken to people who seem to think it's a good idea. But are they going to think it's a good idea when it's actually built and in the literally going right next to their houses? And like you say, reducing their house prices, and just it's an absolute horror what they want to do.
I wonder if there's any craft people out there who are good with cardboard and scissors and things that could actually model what it will finally look like so that you can say to people, here we go, here is there's your house. Your house is that so big, and here's a tower that big against your house, 150 feet. I think 50 meters.
Meters.
It's around 150 feet. I mean, that's colossal.
They're massive.
And only so far apart. I'm absolutely. I mean, I am gobsmacked at the scale of this. And the fact that some people can even think it's a sensible suggestion.
But I don't think they realise. I mean, people keep saying, "Well, we need the extra electric around here."
How do they know that?
It's not coming here, and exactly how do they know that? Because that's what they're getting told.
Because, I mean, if you're in a rural community with sparse housing as it is,
Mm.
then why do they all need extra electricity? Presumably, they're not having power cuts at the moment and told, well, you can only have electricity between 9 and 3 or something.
Exactly. I mean, we get power cuts few and far between. It's
Right.
very rare. It's not.
So, so in your area, there doesn't seem to be a huge number of people at 5 o'clock in the afternoon putting the kettle on and watching mainstream rubbish, and then cooking and stuff, because there's just not enough of you to be putting a surge on the grid.
No.
Down south, yes, no, I've got no problem with people building something, an equally horrible monstrosity, say in the middle of London, particularly say in the city of London, where a lot of corruption seems to be going past. Yeah, knock all that lot down and build it there. See how they like it. They'll be the first to complain.
They would. They wouldn't want. They wouldn't want to be near it.
No,
It would be a. It
and
would be a lot
I'm
of
guess
better.
I'm guessing the MPs that have been that are on your side are only the ones that are actually impacted by it.
It's yeah. The local MPs.
Yes,
I mean, a prominent one. Victoria Atkins. Is our local MP, and she is against them. She has been to some of the meetings, and she has been prominent in saying that she doesn't want. Um,
and is she a strong MP?
um, she's relatively strong, but
She prepared to stand in the House against everybody else and say we're not having it.
that's wow, that's the thing, isn't it?
Is she an Andrew Bridgen? Is she prepared to put her, everything on the line?
Yeah,
Or when it comes to it, will she just sell up and move to another part of the countryside and go, oh, well, I'll let them get on with it?
well, that's the thing.
Maybe she can answer that. It's, we need strong people to stop this nonsense happening.
A lot of the I mean, there is a Facebook group, and the No Pylons Lincolnshire, and there's several thousand members on there, and they're the ones that are putting the banners up. They're the ones that are campaigning, and they need as much support as they can possibly get from local people and people from further afield, people who care about the countryside, care about the animals. I mean, the wildlife we've got here, the birds, the bats at night time. It just we've just got so much beautiful countryside and beautiful animals, um, and it's going to be completely.
So they're quite happy to destroy all of that. And yet, if you have, say, a little lesser spotted crested newt in your back garden swimming around, you can't have an extension on your back garden or whatever it is, because, oh no, you mustn't upset that tiny little newt.
Yeah.
But it's fine up in Lincolnshire. We can decimate all of that. In fact, more than decimate, absolutely destroy all of that, all the countryside, get rid of the farming, get rid of that, radiate the people who live there, and we can have these monstrous towers. And by the way, it's only down 400 miles south who actually are ever going to get the benefit of it. I mean, I would feel incredibly guilty if I plugged in my little toaster, for example, to toast a bit of bread, thinking actually this piece of toast has actually put loads of people out of business, and animals have suffered, birds have been taken away from their environment, bees, pollinators, all of that have gone because of all of this infrastructure. And as you say, it's not just, Lincolnshire will be the tip of the iceberg. This is happening across the whole countryside.
Yeah, it is. I mean, from what I've read, I believe that they've got a big pylon route through Essex, and they're on about actually taking the pylons out, um, and removing them. So I wonder if any of those will be coming up here, if they'll be reusing things. But yes, all the way along. I mean, Suffolk is a big area. They want to put more of these things, and they have got their own campaign group, um, and I believe that I'm not certain if it's the the two people you spoke to about the solar farm before, but another solar farm that's it's quite close to us, about 20 minutes from us, that was proposed to be put there. I believe that it's been blocked. I believe they've managed to do something to stop it happening, or at least pause it happening. So there is a little bit of hope if people have managed to get something done there.
Yes. So you said to me before we started recording, it's not like, well, on the one hand, you'd like it to stop because you don't want all of that. But at this stage, you're just saying, look, we'd just like you to pause the projects
That's
so that we can have a proper assessment, know what the damage is, know what the health problems is, know what's going to happen to farming and all of that, which is a very reasonable, rational, perfectly sensible idea, because nothing like this on this scale has been done before. So how can anybody say, without doing real deep research, that this is not going to affect anybody?
exactly. This is the thing. Other countries, all the other countries, well, the UK is the only one that wants to do it onshore. All the other countries are doing it offshore. Surely that's more forward thinking.
Yes.
I mean, the health implications, nobody really knows, or the people that do know aren't saying much. They don't know how harmful being situated so close to all of this electrical equipment is.
Well, I mean, there are plenty of people who've done research on pylons, and I've had a chap in the studio who went round my house looking at dirty electricity and the vibrations of electricity, etc. And we know that people who live under pylons can very, sensitive people can get headaches, migraines, they can have health issues. And if you ramp that up, then you're going to see a lot more health issues. I mean, I can't see that people are going to come out of this feeling better.
No, I mean, if you start looking at things like unexplained cancer clusters, you find that often electric it plays a part. Obviously, there's other causes. There's lots of things, diet and such forth. But electricity, in my view, plays a big part in things like that, and also in MS cases. Um, I mean, MS is going up, and I mean that they have realised that to some extent MS um, can be attributed to electrical EMFs.
We do seem to be in a time, here we are in the 21st century, supposedly the most sophisticated, cultivated bunch of people with the best science you could possibly have. And yet our health record seems to be drastically going down. Every time they come out with a medical intervention or a new upgrade in technology, it seems to be working hugely against us. And yet the powers that be don't seem to take that into consideration, mainly because they don't live there, I'm imagining.
Yeah, I think that's probably
And who knows how these contracts are done with I was going to say little brown envelopes, but I think these are quite fat brown envelopes being slid across behind closed doors.
yes. I don't. I think the thing is that they don't want people to look too much into all of that because it's too big a thing.
Yes.
It's. I mean, electric is everywhere. I mean, if you check things in your house, you see that a lot of it gives off harmful readings if you use an EMF meter, and I mean these pylons, from what I can gather, I mean the noise underneath them, they can, I mean you can pick up such a charge from them. If you're near to one of those, what will that do to you?
Well, exactly.
I mean, and all these cancer clusters that pop up all over the place. There was one in Yorkshire, and they marked them down as unexplained. And I mean,
Well, I mean, if it's unexplained, that's unacceptable, because you go, well, we don't have cancer clusters that are just unexplained. There's got to be a cause. It's not just, oh, what a coincidence. All these people seem to have got cancer. Oh, I wonder what that was. Oh, we don't know. Well, it may be something that you weren't doing before that you are doing now.
that's the thing. If you look at What is the statistic? Is it 1 in 2 people get cancer now?
I mean, it's ridiculous.
If
It'll
you
soon be 1 in 1.
Exactly. If you look at things that have changed over the years, probably the biggest thing is technology.
Yes.
The amount of things that you've got in your house. I think that the reason that people struggle so much is because you can't actually pinpoint that as a definitive cause, because there are other things at play, and people's diets are a lot worse, and people don't exercise enough, they don't get the fresh air that they need, all those sorts of things. So it's not an only definitive that's what's causing it, but I definitely think it does play a part, and it's concerning.
It's an yes, it's an accumulative. There's a
Yeah.
word to say. An accumulative, um, accumulative association with all this stuff. So the more we put in,
Mm.
the more we're all at risk, and these people don't seem to care. So what can people do? I mean, people watching this who are down in Cornwall or in Wales or in Scotland is going, well, it doesn't affect me. But this is the point. These plans have been long in the tooth, and they may well be in your area. You just don't know about it yet.
That's
And
it.
if they're going to blight Lincolnshire, why would they not blight Hertfordshire, Shropshire, any of these other rural counties where, oh yeah, we could stick some of these horrible, beastly pylons in, and all the substations and converters and goodness knows what that goes with it.
I think a lot of people are of the mindset that if it's not on their doorstep, that it doesn't concern them. And
Yes.
even people in the local community, they'll call you a NIMBY, don't they? If you,
And it's ridiculous because they're all very concerned. So many people concerned with saving the planet,
yes.
but they're not necessarily interested in saving their rural economy and their rural area,
Mm.
and or indeed other parts of the great country, the beautiful country that we have. But they're happy to save with dubious science, and do ridiculous things. And this is all part of that so-called saving it. When you go, is it?
Mm.
Is it?
Well, they just need to, other people, local people and people further afield, any support that they can give. I mean, there is the Facebook group, the No Pylons Lincolnshire, writing to your local MP, even if you're further afield,
Mm.
anybody, that any extra support has got to be a good thing. And yes, it might not be on your doorstep, it might not be happening to you, but it could, like you say.
Oh, my screen's just gone funny. What also occurs to me is the people who's going to be. Have I frozen?
You have frozen.
I have frozen. I think. Hang on
That's
a
a
minute.
snapshot.
There we go. I'm still recording. Apparently, let me just see if I can repair my screen. There we go. I don't know quite what happened there. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. You're probably quite happy to see me frozen for a change. The people that are doing this, I wonder who's going to be brought in to actually do the engineering, the people on the ground. Because if they're true Brits, do they really want to be taking on that job of putting in infrastructure to make people very unhappy and radiate them, killing the landscape? I always think it's the people at the bottom who have actually got to do the work really could turn around and say, we're not going to do it. But the chances are they'll get some foreign mob from somewhere else who don't care about the country to go and do this.
Yeah, possibly. Um, I mean, it's a massive undertaking what they're going to need to do.
Yes.
Just the sheer amount of traffic, and the roads are, I mean, not just the roads, but I mean, how are they going to get these massive things, where they want to
Well,
put them? I mean, honestly, if you saw the roads near us,
yes, I can well imagine what they're like. And as you say, they're going to bung in these other bigger roads. And then what? They're going to take them out again? One
um,
doesn't think that.
well, they said, at the meeting, they said some temporary roads would go in, but they don't know if some would be left.
Hmm.
We just, things are very much up in the air. We don't know much, and we're not being told very much. But what we are being told is that it's likely to happen, and it's likely to happen very close to where we are. So we just don't know. I mean, from what I can gather, and I believe that it will happen. Um, and my reasoning for that is that the national grid, the pylons will go in first with the substations, and the Ossian wind farm have to wait for those to go in. Now, from what I've been told, the Ossian wind farm has already gone into planning. The actual wind farm up the top, they've put the planning in already for that, and I believe it's been granted.
Well, Ed Miliband just seemed to be happy to put his signature to all these bloody things.
He's the one that wanted to live next to a pylon.
Oh, he's the one.
He's the
Yes.
one.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe
he
he
said
could
he'd
live
be
on the top
happy.
of a pylon. There may be a
Yeah,
sharp point on there, and you could lower him on in a little
yeah.
orifice that might make him very happy. Georgina, sorry, Gina, it's lovely to have spoken to you. Worrying subject. And I would urge people to go and research this, also to look into their own area, just in case there's something going to suddenly materialise on their back door.
Yeah.
So people can join the No Pylons Lincolnshire. Is that what it's called?
No Pylons Lincolnshire. It's a Facebook
Facebook
group.
group.
They need as much support as they can get, genuine support
Yeah.
for people that are really concerned.
And the thing, and one of the, I mean, again, one of the reasons if you don't live in the area is if you could get a massive project like this paused, halted, or even stopped, anything that happens to be in your area, you know, you're going to have the tools then to prevent that. So we all need to rally together to prevent these things from happening, even if you don't live in the area,
It's
because
important.
it's absolutely important. I mean, for the sake of your children and your children's children, what
Exactly.
kind of world are they going to live up? And if they're doing that, I mean, here's another thing that always strikes me. It's like, yeah, okay, it's all going to be great. But then maybe in another 20 years or another 30 years, oh, there's another upgrade. Well, where are you going to put that? Oh, we're going to just blight the place a bit more. Great. Where will England be at the end of it all?
Exactly. I mean, the other countries are doing it in a totally different way, and
Yeah,
they are choosing for the UK. They are choosing the wrong way. What you need to think, they need to think about future generations. What
absolutely.
are you leaving your children?
Yes. A
I mean, it's
complete and
just
utter environmental mess, it seems to me.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming on and alerting us to this horrific story. Like so many of these things, there's not that many people who seem to be in favour. There certainly seems to be more people out of favour, and yet these small-minded people in London seem to be quite happy to allow our country to fall apart when there are other ways to do it. I really appreciate you coming on, Gina. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope this horrific thing does not happen,
I hope so.
and that people can rally round and start to actually stand up for once.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you very much.
appreciate it.
It's lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Something to think about over your porridge tomorrow morning. And I appreciate you watching as you put on the toaster. In the meantime, I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. Not going to say I'm not going to leave this subject alone, because I think this is going to be repeated and repeated and repeated, because more people are going to be starting to see the error of this concept. But anyway, until next time, from Gina and myself, thank you for watching. Bye for now.